Don't die. That's the first trick to playing Mass Effect 3 well. Getting shot is a leading cause of death in Mass Effect 3. There's also explosions, bludgeoning, and having your brains eaten by a giant crab. We're outnumbered and outgunned. To survive, we need cover. There are two types of cover: hard cover and soft cover. Hard cover is the one from the tutorial. We can stick ourselves tight to a wall, even short ones. This is nice because it gives us something to brace on for better shooting and lets us hide behind short walls to surprise our friends. But whenever we shoot, we're exposed again. This is a huge problem because in this game we're badly outnumbered. Being exposed lets the enemy use that against us. Every time we peek out, it's us against every enemy in sight. Hard cover also limits our movement. If we move, we lose cover. But when we hold still, enemies build up, surround us, and force us out. Soft cover is when there are full height walls and structure and we tactically stand behind them. While it doesn't give accuracy benefits, it allows greater freedom of movement, and most importantly, it gives us control over our exact exposure. This lets us control the fight. When we're outnumbered, we can carefully stand far enough behind the wall to see only one enemy and block out the others. This lets us force a series of one-on-ones, picking them off one at a time. If you control the lines of sight, you control the fight. When using soft cover this way, try to keep your soft cover on your left. Your viewpoint is over your right shoulder and your gun is in your right hand. If cover is on your right, it's harder to see and shoot around. But if cover is on your left, you can see better and shoot with less of your body exposed. This is called right hand advantage, and it's extremely helpful. You'll be seeing a lot of it. And that about covers it. That should be everything you'd need to know to stay alive in... Oh, that's gone poorly. What happened here? What went wrong? What can we learn? Well, I was dealing with what was in front of me, but only what was in front of me. I had tunnel vision. Tactically standing behind a wall is good. But what if they come at us from a side that's not protected? That's called a flanking attack. I got flanked. To prevent that, we need a wider perspective. At first, enemies move directly toward us. When they get close, they take cover and fight. As more arrive, they spread out to start encircling us and try to get behind our cover to flank us. We need to make that more difficult for them. There's two ways to do that: positioning and movement. Positioning is where we put ourselves on the map to minimize our exposure and make it difficult to surround us. The position I chose had some soft cover. That was good. At the edge of the map, enemies couldn't come from behind me. That was also good. And I was controlling lines of sight in front of me. Good. But I couldn't see most enemies. That was bad. I only had protection from the front. Also bad. And I stayed long enough for enemies to flank me and I had nowhere to go when that happened. Very bad. If we look at not just my lines of sight, but enemy lines of sight, it's clear I was doomed well before I was getting shot at. Little patches of soft cover are good, but if we're going to stay longer, we need a better position. The first thing we need in a good position is soft cover. Lots of soft cover so we can move freely while protected. We need to see enemies coming. We need space to dodge grenades and pivot around. And we always need an escape plan. They call them dead ends for a reason. This map, Giant, has several excellent positions. First, the bunker. There's loads of soft cover everywhere, layers of it facing multiple directions. The edge of the map covers our back. We can easily see any enemies coming towards the front from across the map. Enemies can get in the back, but the ladder slows them down to just one at a time. And there's plenty of room to avoid grenades. It is in the corner with only 2 exits, but there's so many aisles and walls for maneuvering inside that enemies will have a hard time pinning us down and preventing our escape. And those exits both have patches of soft cover nearby to help us get clear. We don't want to run out into the open. Giant's control room is another good position. Lots of walls. The ways in are all narrow choke points covered by safe vantage points. There's space to work, rooms to fall back on, and there's multiple sneaky ways to slip into fresh cover. Bad positions are just as important to recognize. Did you notice when I showed enemy lines of sight that one open area always had tons of exposure to multiple enemies? Wide open areas with big avenues overlooked by windows are dangerous positions. Places like the sandy pit on Firebase Dagger are awful. There's almost no soft cover, and any place with hard cover leaves us exposed to at least 3 other positions. I won't bother mapping every enemy sightline onto this, it's clear the whole pit would be covered. Places like this are death traps. Other death traps include the low, small alley on Ghost, or the Great Room on Goddess. Positioning isn't about deciding where to camp. Movement is part of the game too. Often we'll drift from one position to another through good positions and bad, but we'll stop and fight at good positions, and we'll move on quickly from bad positions. Bad positions are for shooting into, not shooting out of. So look around, think about where enemies could shoot at you from, and where you'll go if that happens. If there's lots of open space, you're in a bad position, don't stay there. If enemies can come from a direction, assume they eventually will. Moving between positions is also important. Try to move along the edge of the map. The map boundary is one direction we can't be attacked from. As we move, enemies will string along behind us. When they're like that, they won't outnumber us. Every time we move, they have to catch up before they can use their numbers again. Stop to fight at positions with soft cover. The better the position, the longer we can stay. But enemies will eventually close in and try to surround us or come at us from a different direction. We need to expect that and be ready to move before it's a problem. Cover, positioning, and movement are good, but they're not the only tools. We have a gun and we have powers, and dead enemies can't hurt us. Mostly. Using certain weapons can help us survive. First, weapons that do a lot of damage all in one shot let us spend less time exposed while firing. Quick, short peeks from cover are better for our health than long looks while we hold the trigger. Being able to shoot through material helps us stay farther behind soft cover, and we can even hit enemies that can't shoot back. And some weapons or powers knock enemies off balance, buying us critical seconds of not getting shot. Any power that disables, staggers, or slows is extremely helpful in defending us from smaller enemies, especially when we're moving through open ground. Staggering an enemy, or just making them dodge a power while we run past, can be a lifesaver. Now we have all the elements for our strategy. Hard cover is good for brief moments in between better cover. Use soft cover to control lines of sight and control the fight. Good positions let us use soft cover to stand and fight with advantage. Movement keeps us from being surrounded or pinned down. Weapons with big bursts of damage or penetrating materials helps you minimize your exposure while firing. Weapons and powers that stagger or disable enemies buy you critical time. But how do we put that together in actual practice? Literally, what do? We keep enemies in front of us. We stay within a dodge or two of soft cover. As soon as we're outnumbered, we get behind that soft cover to limit our exposure to one enemy at a time. While we do that, we think about the big picture and expect enemies to try to get around cover. We're ready to move before that happens, using soft cover to protect us as we go, staying out of the open as much as possible. Here's a demonstration of exactly what this looks like. We start in the bunker on Giant, very strong position, but enemies spawned inside, so first thing to do is pivot towards the exit so they can't cut off our escape. I didn't get a good look before, and I'm not sure where a lot of them are. They're close, and I'm feeling a little pressured, so I'm going to be cautious and slip out early. I'm going to be overly cautious like this a lot, because this is a demonstration of tactics for survival, nothing else. That's why I'm only using this basic gun and minimal powers. We have to cross their field of fire to escape, so we'll leave as soon as they start getting behind our cover. Now this position gives us a lot of advantage. They're all in front of us and they have to cross this open ground with a little cover right in front of us. They can't get around. We have soft cover on both sides, space to avoid grenades, and the edge of the map protects one side. Our escape is clear behind us because they're all in front. This is exactly how we want to fight. So of course, some of them get respawned and come from another direction, but we're ready with somewhere to go. Concussive shot to disrupt them, and I'll pivot. Now I have to watch the ladder and the entrance at the same time. These are both choke points, so they can only come a few at a time. That makes this a small opportunity. When I hear the grenade behind me, I don't take chances. I'll go down this ramp because it keeps cover on our left, which makes it easier to see and shoot around because our gun and camera are on our right. As soon as they have numbers, I'm moving back. It's tempting to use these counters to try some shenanigans, but there's respawners behind me, so I need to go. Notice I stand next to the pillar to shield my left from the soldiers inside, and I disrupt with a power instead of fighting in the open. I'm going to this soft cover so I have some protection while I move across this plaza. I would fight a little here, but there's troopers on the left coming, so I'll move to get all enemies in front of me before I fight. I spend a lot of time and attention on this kill, so I'll move to a vantage point to assess. Awareness is key. We're being very careful not to let getting kills distract us from the big picture. Sometimes it's really frustrating to walk away, but people who don't die play it cool and play it smart, and outsmarting the system is always satisfying. Don't let yourself get attached. Walk out if you feel the heat coming. Again, this is absurdly cautious. I wouldn't normally play like this, but this is about tactics, not strength. I'm demonstrating how to control the fight. I'm acting, never reacting. I'm only fighting when I have the advantage. Like here, I've got soft cover between me and most of the enemies, so these are simple one-on-ones. And this goes pretty much the same as last time. See that elbow from behind the box? He's behind our line of soft cover, so it's time to move. Here, we get behind soft cover first, so his friends can't shoot us while we fight. We always get cover first, and then fight with advantage. Does this feel orchestrated, controlled? That's because it is. We're in complete control, using cover and positioning to keep them all in front of us and fight only one or two at a time. Whenever it seems like these troops are moving around to our flank, we've expected that. We're one step ahead, moving to a new position, getting them all right back in front of us where we want them. And these are just a few troopers, but these techniques work against every enemy. These tactics are core fundamentals. They apply to the whole game at every level, and everything more advanced builds on this. With good use of cover, movement, positioning, and a little disruption, we keep control. And when we control the fight, we win. In real games, this won't be so simple. Things get messy. These guidelines are there to fall back on. These tactics will help you survive, and surviving is the first step. Thanks for watching, and don't die.